Okay, folks, welcome back. So, that's what we're working on next. I'm going to go ahead and pull the reference book out while I'm thinking about it. I need to find somewhere else for those things to go. Panther. There we go. My preferred reference book is the squadron signal stuff. And in particular, I'm going to find out about this chin thing. It's a G that gets made out of here. There's a G appear full version. Revised side armor. This originated during the development of the Jagd Panthers. The original hull contours and angles did not allow sufficient interior room. Yeah, so the sides of this are more vertical than the other Panthers. The significant feature was the elimination of the driver's vision hatch in the Calasis plate. Driver is then provided with a rotating periscope on the roof of and in front of this hatch, and the oblique fixed periscope was eliminated. Hull top hatches were simplified flap affairs instead of the lift and rotate type used on the OFS D and A, and were spring-loaded to assist in opening them. From mid-44 on, most Gs had a new gun mantlet. Field reports and tests indicated that the round cast mantlet was a serious shot trap, and a projectile striking the lower half of the mantlet almost always deflected down through the roof onto the turret ring. A thickened chin with a vertical front place was added to the mantlet casting and was a great improvement of the original design, although more costly to manufacture. So if you're making an early G, you're probably going to need to put Zimmerit on it. So if we can just avoid making early G, we'll put the chin on it. I actually would have preferred not to do the chin. That way you have variety, because my other one, I believe, does have a chin as well. And this is a refurb that I did. Because the original one was... It didn't look bad, but it's not up to date standards. This is the Green Panther that I did. This is based on an illustration, so this isn't just me doing wishful thinking. There's some precedent to this. I think it turned out pretty well. So we're going to do another one. Basically, that's what we're building. It's not going to be green, but and we might enhance it with some track pieces or something like that. Because we have extra Panther pieces. Now, all right, time for the super readers. So we're going to leave this open in case we need to consult this. This is an old model. But I think it's worth $5, which is what I paid for it. You may disagree, but what's done is done. Okay, pull these things out. That's not supposed to be there. Don't need that. Old 3-piece hull. All right. Wow. What's in using instructions look like? It's been, I've had to avoid so many of them for multiple reasons, but. Hasegawa lets you start on the turret. Gonna need that. Now, I might actually put some of these side skirts on. Although I prefer my Panthers without side skirts, but just for variety. It used to be my favorite tank. If somebody would ask me 30 years ago what my favorite tank is, Panther, I wouldn't even take a breath, even thinking about it. It just looks sweet. If it didn't have interwoven road wheels, it'd look even better. I'm not really a fan of that look. Okay, let's pull the turret out. Okay, let's lower that height here a little bit. Oh, that's the other way. And this was a vehicle that notoriously, in the 70s, 60s, if it was said, what's the best World War II tank? World War II tank, almost everybody would say it's a Panther. And lately, I think that has changed. I think that people have come to the, if the Panther was as reliable as the Sherman, yeah, it'd be the Panther. But the Panther had severe reliability issues. I mean, the fact that the early models, you could start them up and they could catch fire on their own with no enemy anywhere near being present. That's a problem. That's an issue. And later on, they didn't have that issue, but they always had mobility problems. They had transmission that was designed for like a 32-ton tank, and it's a 45-ton tank. So it's overstrained. But the gun is excellent. The front armor is excellent. And it's one of those vehicles that was around long enough for the people that crewed them to become experienced with the vehicle. So it's not like something like the Yag Tiger that's like, oh man, it's a great vehicle. It's like, well, okay, it's got mobility issues. Anybody that's working on the Yag Tiger crew is basically green. They're kids, inexperienced kids. You got fuel shortages, and you got in 1945. You basically don't have any fuel. And this was a common vehicle related to, other than, it was just as common as the Panzer IVs. Half as common as a Stug. What's up, Ben? Ben from the Wadi. Wadi Ben. And this isn't the most accurate model, but it's pretty decent. Look, goes together pretty well. But yeah, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, even 80s when I grew up. What's the best tank of World War II? Almost everybody would say Panther. And I'd still say it's probably the Panther, except the reliability issues really is a problem. All right, we're doing the one with the chin because we're not doing Zimmerit on this thing. I got about an hour I can do this, and then I gotta go do other things. So I can probably put a dent in this. We'll find out if this is less work than the Tiger. That Tiger really took a bit of time. Let's see what the barrel situation is on this thing. I don't know what people would say now what the best tank of World War II is. I know I've heard some people say a T-34, and I think they're fucking crazy. I'm not saying T-34 is crap, but man, there's a lot of things wrong with the T-34. And the T-34 was really good in 1 year, in 1941. In 1941, the T-34, you can make a case that it's the best tank. And it still has issues in 1941. But 1941 was its best year. After that, it just... No, I am going to need that other piece, because that's where it connects to, right? Maybe not. What's your favorite tank of World War II? You know, you say something like 1940, it's going to be hard to argue that the Matilda being the best tank. I mean, other than its HE capability against infantry, that thing's untouchable. Matilda 2, I should say. Matilda 1 is just... It's a contender that's up there for ugliest vehicle. But Matilda 1's pretty short-lived. Yeah, a lot of your time on cleanup is cleaning up these gun barrels. Like if they just give you like a brass gun barrel, like you could just save a lot of time on that. This is like my ninth Panther, I think. I got two Ds. I got two Ds from Kursk. I have a G from Matchbox. I have an A from Britannia. I have an A from BP Cast. And a pair of Plastic Soldier Company ones. So this is my eighth Panther. Yeah. Yeah, it's $5. If I'd have had three more, I probably would have gotten those as well. You know? Did I want did I want another Panther? Well, not really. But at $5, yeah, maybe we'll do something different. Maybe we'll do like a Viking paint job. Viking did like these straight lines and stuff on it. Something different. I don't have any of those. I like all the weird tanks. Okay? It's like you say, carriers ruin naval battles. They did. Well, those good tanks ruined the two-turret abominations and tankettes. All right, fair enough. You like multi-turreted tanks. Weird tanks. Yeah, carriers ruin naval battles. Well, they just turned them into something different. Now, maybe carriers that were like, did a really bad job at cap and like spotting other carriers. And they just lumber into a battle. Because I've played naval battles with carriers, but the carriers are on the board. Meaning, they get the launch, but, they're going to eventually get caught. I guess kind of like the same way the stupid game World of Warships is. They're on the board. Like, you could pin them in a corner. You're going to get them. But as long as they're carriers, like, Eagle, HMS Eagle is a great carrier. It only has a complement of 24 planes. 18 of them are swordfish. And the other three are usually ferry Fulmars. But in other words, when the carriers are attacking, somebody's not just sitting in an aircraft formation just shooting at them. I mean, there's shells that are being traded. But these carrier battles in the Pacific where none of the surface ships engaged each other. That's just not my sort of thing. Coral Sea and Eastern Solomons and Santa Cruz and so forth. That's just not that's not my thing. Multi-turret, I like all those weird tanks too. I like all the weird tanks. I probably I don't have a favorite tank. I don't even have a favorite tank for nationality. Somebody says, what's your favorite, British tank? Well, I can't say, I like the Crusader. I like the Matilda too. So it's like, that alone, like, I can't even decide with them. I'd probably say my favorite American, I don't know. I like Stewarts and Shermans, so, it's hard to decide behind those two. Germans, forget it. It's impossible to pick your favorite German tank. You know, I like German tanks in gray, so that's the one mark against the Panther. And Soviets, well, Soviets are all over the place. I'd say the best looking Soviet tank is probably something like a T-50. A T-50 looks really good. They only made a handful of them, but they look really good. The proportions are all right on it. It's funny, I've said that carrier thing multiple times, and nobody's ever said, oh man, carriers are great, battleships suck. No. No, I'm not interested in aircraft carriers. And there's some aircraft carriers I'm all right with. I mean, you know, I like Lady Lex. I like Eagle. But I don't like ships that they make a shitload of them in the same class. Like 24 Essex class carriers. Which one's your favorite? Like, who cares? You know, they're all the same thing. Ark Royal. I had her in 1/600 scale. I'm not putting that piece in the back. We're just going to glue this in place. Hopefully with the chin towards the bottom. Whoopsie. Okay, this is how you do this. Okay, this is how you do a three-piece hull. What you do is you make these sides, and then these actually glue to the side so they're separate. That's brilliant. Is there a year on this Hasegawa thing? It's funny. It says made in Japan, and look, it's like rubbed over. Underneath the Hasegawa logo, it's you can barely make out this. It says made in Japan. So this one was not really made in Japan. It says made in Japan here. Nice underside of the tank for Marcus to gawk at. That's all right. That's good. Like I told people when we used to play DVA, it's good that we don't all play the same way. It's good that people have different opinions. And some people like things that I don't like, you know. So I started doing a little bit of the roundels. I downloaded some roundels for my imaginations, and I found another plane that would work well for the main country. That's an Alpha Jet. Although I don't think that they made. I don't know if they made Alpha Jet with like gun pods, but I think when I get around to doing that, it'll end up being like a tan color and like a green color in camouflage. Now, I didn't know this, but Spitfires, for instance, I mean, I didn't know this, 3 years ago. I've known it now since I found it, but Spitfires, for instance, came in. Their camouflage scheme came in two flavors of pattern. At least the Battle of Britain Spitfires. Let's do the Battle of Britain Spitfires. The camouflage, the forest green and the tan earth came in two different patterns, an A and a C pattern. I just figured it was like here's they're all painted in tan, and you put the green where you want, or vice versa. But that isn't the case. And apparently, that isn't the case in other nations as well, because I was looking for pictures of some small nation. I want to say it's Guinea or something like that. And they had their planes lined up, and everywhere that there was the line, in other words, they all looked the same. They all had the same camouflage scheme on them per aircraft. If they had like half the tail was green, half of it was tan, every one of those planes were all that same way. I was like, man, that would have never occurred to me. But maybe they have to have requirements like that, otherwise people go crazy. But this is how you do the hole. This is all one piece. Look at that. Fits beautifully. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assemble the road wheels, and I'm going to probably get them squished and then put them on here. And that way I don't have to worry about trying to reach through here. As a matter of fact, while I'm thinking about that, I'm going to go ahead and melt this thing together. Hold on, I'll be right back. That's the national. If states had national anthems, I guess they'd be state anthems. In Florida, it'd be a lawnmower here. I always mow the lawn until this house. Like this house has just got. You have to buy an expensive lawnmower, like one of those riding lawnmowers. Those are expensive. That's a couple $1,000. More than a couple $1,000. Think, oh, you mean $2,000? I said, no, like six. For the privilege of mowing your own lawn. Like, what the hell, man? this is not a good fit. This is not a good fit. I don't know if this is going to do anything, honestly. They had a ton. You know, there was some models that they had yesterday that there was like a plethora of. Like multiple vendors had many of them, and they looked like they were in good shape. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to look and see, try to do some research now that I've seen several vendors over and over again. But they had a ton of Revell 1/72nd scale Sea Hurricanes, a ton. I mean, a hurricane is not a bad. I mean, I know that the Spitfire gets all the glory, but I'm not a hurricane hater by any stretch of the imagination. Where's the tweezers that shut down automatically? The default is shut down. Well, that's those. That's this. Yeah, I picked this stuff up before I got started. Anyways, this one vendor had like 6 of them. I mean, they were really right there. All right. Of course, what I'm going to do with a Sea Hurricane. Have you thinking about carrier aircraft? You know, the biggest problem with the Hurricane is it had only 30 cal MGs. Still had 8 of them though. Like the Spitfire. Eventually they put the 20 millimeter cannons and had some tank busters with 40 mils too. I think they had 40 mils. Those British planes with the guns that stick way out, like the 20 mils and the Hispano-Suiza cannons, Swiss Spick cannons. They look good. They look good with those cannons sticking way out. A lot better than those Messerschmitts with those gun pods that they look like they wouldn't be able to turn at all. They'd be like yanking on that yoke and it wouldn't turn at all. We're going to meltify these first, and then we're going to staple them for good measure. You got nothing flammable around here? Okay. I mean, you gotta be all up in it for it to be a problem. But still, I don't want to be that guy, the guy that lights himself on fire. Lights himself on fire, doesn't get to pick what part of his body gets to burn. A lot of Sea Hurricanes, a lot of World War One planes. A lot of World War One planes. They actually had a model of I should have taken a picture of it. Had a model of the last model I would ever build is a drone. Like, why would you bother building a drone? Let's do the same thing with the other one. You know, the plane I'm tired of seeing is P-51s. Everybody's like a P-51 fan. I don't hate them. I'm just tired of seeing them. It's got kind of mismolded and crimped on the end. It's hard to thread these. I'm about to give up on this thing and just staple it, son of a bitch. You know, back when I was building models in the early '90s, one plane that was super popular. And you don't see them anymore. Super popular. Probably the most popular plane, even more popular than P-51s. F-14 Tomcats. F-14 Tomcats were everywhere. And then it's like, because right there in Desert Storm, they still used them in Desert Storm. Then eventually they just kind of went away. But anyhow, I found the piece of paper this morning where I had written down all the factions for the imaginations, or some of them, anyways. And I found the one, I couldn't remember what it was called. That was the French one. French Regional Operations Group. Frog. And then their flag, their logo is that little peppy dude. French Regional Operations Group. But anyways, there's this. If you look up roundels of the world, you could find that somebody decided to do like a whole world map. And inside each country is the roundel that it uses nowadays. And there's some that are good, there's some that are generic, and then there's some that are just like, what were you smoking when you came up with this? Just some bad ideas for stuff. Like, for instance, I think the one for Nicaragua is actually pretty cool. It's red and black together, which is never a good sign of freedom. If you want freedom, don't go somewhere where the flags of your country are red and black. You're going to be told how to be free. But it's kind of a unique shaped, logo, and it's a good unique shape. It's not like, hey, good job on the, hey, you got a unique shape there. Oh, you like it? I said, no, it's weird as hell. No, they actually like, it looks good. shouldn't have an issue. All right. The insides are these 6 here. All right. Let's go ahead and do all the insides. These. And I'm probably going to go ahead and glue them in, because they go all the way to the back. Nothing needs to interweave with them. They're all the way in the back. The first 1/35th scale model was a Panther that I built, was the Tamiya Panther. We had a craft store here in the United States. They probably had it, if you probably even seen it, maybe up in Connecticut, maybe they have it up there. It was a chain called Ben Franklin. And yes, they made keys there too. Because then isn't he the guy that's known for flying that kite and putting the key on the kite? You know, I know it's just like one of them King Arthur stories. But there was a craft store called Ben Franklin. I'd forgotten about that. And they had models in there and stuff. Like a Michaels, but they had models also. I don't think Michaels ever had models in it. And they had Tamiya models. And that Tamiya Panther, it's come to light that there's all kinds of stuff wrong with it. You know, it going together is not one of them. So, you know, it's not like it's forgivable. But like the turret is the wrong shape. And, you know, when you have these turrets that are at these angles, if your angle's off by like, 5 degrees or something, it ends up turning into a big deal. And it came with those 2 tank commanders. One of them's just sitting there. He's just like, has his hands out on the turret, wearing gloves like he's into some kinky shit or something like that. Like that's the guy you got. Wooden looking dude. Now, should have 2 of these. Alright, so these are all going to go on the inside. Well, I'm skeptical that they go on like that. It's like they go on the short one. And the short one doesn't go all the way through. Let's see, one of these nines that's on here. Yeah, I think that the rush of people, of it getting boosted on people's phones has kind of ended. And I've noticed it because nobody's, going on here and going, hey, what you doing? The telltale sign of people that are just don't realize what they're in for. Okay, that fits well, but it's starting to get the feeling these instructions are wrong. Okay, here goes. Quicker, that's why I'm doing it this way. Found the 250/9 track yet? No. Is it in the video? I'll tell you what. Let's take a look. Let's see what I have to say. Bison decals. A video within a video. I just need to film something of me commenting. Now when this can go in, I can watch this. I'm gonna build that 253. No, I'm not if I don't find that track. And none of this stuff should have toxic decap instructions. It was already built. I like those types of models for greebles. They always have interesting pieces you don't see too many places. Greebles, that's like pieces parts. I've actually never heard that greebles before. Greebles sounds like some creature off Star Trek. It does. Trouble with greebles. Alright. And keep in mind where that rubber's going to go. 250/9, which I could use one of those. Oh, this is a good figure. Yeah. Shut up about the figure. Right here. Show me where the track is. That is a good figure. That one is too. Alright, let's put this bitch together. Oh, am I missing a track? Did I get fucked again? I think so. Where did it go? Well, let's see. Based on where that was, it wasn't open until it's over here. I don't think it was open. This is what it came in. You know, I swore I looked in the bag to make sure it was all in there when I bought it, and I could have just, there was the wrapper, the nope. What do I do with it, by the way? Here. I'm sure I'll come up with a solution. I just don't know what that solution is yet. Let's see, does it look like is it the same looking track as the 251? It might be. Not that I have any extras of those, but I don't want to buy an aftermarket set of that. No. It's a Lovecraft reference. What's up, Marcus? No, I never got that track. Oh well. Look, I've had lots of challenges in my 1/72nd scale journey. I'm sure I will be able to overdo this one, but I learned a lesson, and I didn't spend a lot of money. I'm gonna open. You know, if your package is open, check inside of it so you don't get freaking one dingo. Got dinked with a dingo. It's no big deal. That would have sucked if you were like a kid. Like you can't put, you get one model that, every 6 months or something, and you can't put it together. Oh man, I'd be pissed. Lovecraft. Never read any Lovecraft. If I've never read Tolkien, I've never read Lovecraft. I ain't got time for fiction. All those books they assigned you here in the United States in school, I never read any of them. I never read. What was that? And it's not that I don't like to read. It's like I don't want to read your shit. Lord of the Flies. Never read Lord of the Flies. Never read any of those great literature things that they make you read, you know. Grapes of Wrath. None of that shit. Nope. Didn't miss anything either. Oliver Twist. Nope. So I would not do well in a literature category on Trivial Pursuit. You know, you got the opportunity of making a make-believe story. Don't make it boring. H.P. Lovecraft. Is he a Victorian writer? He write during the Victorian time period? Seems like he did. I'll have to look up the Wikipedia article on Cthulhu sometime. I know that I played a Cthulhu game twice. What was that one that's Arkham Horror? I guess that's a Cthulhu type game. Yeah, it's basically a game that takes forever to set up and it's a co-op game and you're going to lose. No matter how... It is an extremely hard game to win. Arkham Horror. I remember when those games were pretty popular. I don't know if they still are. That, Descent. I mean, all the figures that Descent came with. The miniatures looked okay. I don't know if they paint with a damn, but they're decent looking figures. So I don't think you were on here, Marcus. You were in California, I think, at the time. But I was talking about, one of these times I was talking about the book that I did finish reading. That was about Eagle 7, which is the first Pershing that went into action. It's called Spearhead. And in there, every time it refers to American GIs, and I call them GIs because that's what they were called. In the book, they're referred to as does, as in doughboys. You know, not stags, but does. And it's just so awkward to hear that. Like I've never heard them. I've never heard a World War II soldier being called a doughboy. That's a World War I term. All right, we need 3 more of this one. Un, deux, trois. Yep. I've never heard of just like I've never heard anybody call a Japanese fighter plane a Zeke. I know that's the nickname for the A6M2 or whatever the hell it is, A6M3. Everybody calls them zeros. The technically name for him is Zeke. I found out that the background story of that is, and I might have gotten it wrong. I just kind of skimmed it. Some dude that was in charge of coming up with those names decided to give them all. He was from Appalachia. Know anybody like that? And he gave them all Appalachian names. So that's why you've got Japanese planes that are called like Zeke and Pete. I guess Pete's a normal one. Jake and Zeke sounds like a name that belongs in like what's that movie with that I was forced to watch with Billy Bob Thornton. When you talk like this and you talk like me, I'm gonna go see my brother Zeke. That's what it sounds like. Yeah, I've never heard anybody call them Zeeks, other than on the model. The model will say Zeke, like you mean zero. Sling Blade. Sling Blade is the name. It sounds like something off of Sling Blade. Go get my brother Zeke. Yeah, then you. Be right back. The dogs are restless. Okay, that's the front sprocket. Okay, here's the idlers on the back, which are tiny. They don't fit on there pretty well. All right, we're going to wrap up here, and you may be back in the evening, you may not, but this will give this time some time to dry. Um, and we'll come back to this in the evening and do the track.